Hello, welcome to the Tea Party Howdy channel. This is going to be a review of Planet of the Humans, the full movie on YouTube, directed by Jeff Gibbs, starring Jeff Gibbs and his apparently best friend, or at least a good friend, and executive producer Michael Moore. Now you might be wondering, hey, what are you doing watching a Michael Moore movie? Well, that's a good question. Truth is, Rush Limbaugh recommended it. I'm like, well, okay, that's weird. All right, I'll check it out. So, first thing you should know about this movie is Michael Moore's not in it. Michael Moore is not heard in it. Michael Moore is not seen in it. If Michael Moore's point of view is in it, it's not obvious. So, if you're a Michael Moore fan, this film may do nothing for you. If you are neutral on Michael Moore, this movie may be of great interest to you. If you are a can't stand Michael Moore person, don't let that get in the way. There's no Michael Moore visible throughout the movie. Okay, that needs to be said because look how they pitch his name right there. And even when Mr. Limbaugh was talking about it, he used the reference of Michael Moore. It's like there's no visible fingerprints of Michael Moore on this film. All right, so what's the movie about? The movie is about a fellow who is huge into green movement. And to be more specific, he wants to live on a planet where we are using resources more wisely and not using fossil fuels. And what he found out was, spoiler for the end, you can't have one without the other. There is no living sensibly and resourcefully without fossil fuels. That being said, there is no implication in the movie that you have to be wasteful. In fact, they show shenanigan after shenanigan after shenanigan, or for you Joe Biden fans, malarkey after malarkey after malarkey, of the scam that is the Green Movement with their all-solar concerts that are anything but all-solar concerts. They're barely solar concerts. They show the solar panel fields in different regions, including the big one in California, that is quickly turning to ruins. Funny, you don't hear the hoopla about that. They show, or if you want the more biting, clickbaity word, they expose Barack Obama's scam, sham, malarkey, shenanigans, pick your adjective, of the fraud that was solar panels during his era. They're still frauds. Now, here's the thing. As one who thinks solar power is a really lovely idea, the problem with solar power is the exact same problem with electric power. In order to create the solar panels, many, many terrible things have to happen. More than is shown in the movie, as a matter of fact. In the movie, it shows the combination to make the solar panel of coal squished with high-quality quartz. It goes way beyond that. But I'm reviewing the movie. I'm not presenting that information. But if you are interested, you should look up how solar panels are manufactured. There's nothing good about it. And as he points out, and as most people have recognized in the last few years, that the idea of renewable energies is completely fraudulent because you can't have an electrical grid go below, I think it's 40%, and your mileage may vary as the saying goes. Because if it does, and they do point this out in the movie several times, if it does, everybody on that line, that power line, businesses, homes, everything, it won't just shut off. It'll start exploding and breaking because of the power fluctuations. We live in a society in America that uses AC, alternating current. And in order for alternating current to function, it has to stay within a very small band. If you go above it, and people that live in tornado areas know this because they have the thunderstorms, if you go above it from lightning strikes, bam, you blow everything out. If you go below it, like you do, the people in California with brownouts, oh, the modern society that is California. Anyways, if you get a brownout, you can fry everything just as easily as you can by a power surge. So brownouts and power surges are both created with the problems with renewable energy. The wind don't always blow, and the sun don't always shine. And this actually points out, again, it's interesting what it points out in regard to the bad stuff and what it leaves out. Because it gets into, I didn't even know this until I watched this, that those gigantic, and boy are they gigantic, windmills. Those things only last 20 years. I like the way they put it in the film. That is less than a blink of an eye in history. 20 years. Oh, what? Do you realize this is 2020? If they went up in, the year 2000, which is pretty reasonable, they're already rotting. That, and considering how large they are and how much energy it takes to manufacture them, transport them, assemble them, and that is what must be calculated to determine if renewable energies are a successful entity. They're a gigantic loss. You can't equate the energy that they generate for a mere 20 years against what it took to manufacture them, transport them, and assemble them. That is not coming out in the plus category in regards to renewable resources. No. They don't get into it very much, but I'll put it in here real quick. We've discovered, I guess, should I put that? It's interesting because you always talk about, oh, wow, we didn't know that. No, there were people screaming about it from the very beginning, and so that's true in this situation too. That recycling is an awful, awful thing to do for the environment because the energy that it takes to collect the recycles. Think about it. If you live in a big city, you have special trash cans that have to be manufactured. You have special gigantic trucks that drive around that take an enormous amount of fuel and lubing and all physical mechanic stuff. They have to change their tires, blah, 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 to collect that. Then they go back and then they have to be sorted by human beings. Oh, there's a job. Then they have to be ground up, depoisonized from all that toxic paints and everything that are on there. No. When you compare that amount of energy compared to just making a new one and throwing the old one away, yeah. But I will interject. That's recycling. Recycling is really, really bad for the environment. You can look it up anywhere. This is not a secret anymore. However, reusing is a very wise choice. The idea that we switched in the 1960s and 70s to putting everything in plastic was a very foolish and unnecessary choice, says me. So, recycling, bad. It doesn't mean that you don't have to do it. There are certain things that have to be recycled. You just got to pay the piper, and that would be the metals. You really need to spend the money to recycle the metals because metals are limited. But everything else, nope. You are throwing good money after bad. Now, isn't it reusable? No. You should reuse everything as much as you can. Okay, so that's that. Back to the film here. All right, so it's a really fascinating movie. They do point out a lot of bad stuff. They do not point out any good stuff. They do expose the hand over fist cash from the Green Lobby, who is really owned by, the way they put it, right-wing conglomeration giant corporations. Every single one of them. Every single one of the major green lobbyist organizations are all owned and operated and deeply in bed with corporate entities that essentially are the oil companies. So if you're a greenie, you definitely want to watch this and go, oh my God, I've been lied to so much. You've been lied to so much from day one. Now remember this, the difference between a conservationist and an environmentalist. There's a huge difference. An environmentalist will stand there and scream and shout, get those humans out of, fill in the blank, out of the forest, out of the pipeline, out of here, out of there, out of here, out of there. A conservationist will say, dude, hike out your trash. Make sure that when you're done being there, no one can tell you've ever been there. But you do get to go there. You do get to enjoy it. Just leave it exactly the way you found it. Conserve it so it looks the same for the next group of visitors. If you know anything about environmentalists, they do not do that. You can find footage online showing what it looks like after any Earth Day event. When all the crowds are gone, there is mountains of trash everywhere. They are litter bugs galore who attend those events. You can also go back and look. Oh, I dare you to. What's the name of this channel? Tea Party Hardy. Go back and look at the Tea Party events. And you will discover when they left, the cops couldn't believe it. The park rangers couldn't believe it. The Tea Party people left the parks cleaner than when they came into it. This is documented. Earth Day people are enormous pigs, sorry for the insult to pigs, and Tea Party Hardy people clean up the mess they didn't even make. They leave it cleaner than they came. And you can take the same thing, because needless to say, the demographics overlap. You can look at what the Washington Mall looks like after Obama's inauguration, and the litter. Oh my God. There's bulldozers that go in and scrape the ground after Obama's inaugurations, both of them. There's bulldozers on the side, and they're just waiting. And as soon as the event's over, they just bulldoze it, and they pile all the trash in the bulldozers into a big thing, pull it out, and then they roll the grass. It's almost like a cartoon from the 1950s of what the future would look like, except it really does. They use the bulldozers to get rid of the trash after the Obama inaugurations, and then they roll out the grass, and it looks like they were never. That's not conservatism. That's cheating, because you have a mountain of trash that is now swept under the carpet, metaphorically. Whereas after the Trump administration's inauguration, once again, the park ranger said they left it cleaner than they found it. There is a difference in the way people act and do. That's why there's different affiliations. But most importantly, you can see concrete empirical examples of those who say what you ought to do, and I do mean that, say what you ought to do, and those who simply just do the job and move on. Compare them. I've given you examples to look up. So that's this movie, and it gets into all those things and so much more. It's a really good film. It was the one thing that I noticed when I was watching it that I was really not comfortable with is there's a scene where they get busted for trespassing. And just because you're a documentary filmmaker, I'm sorry, that doesn't give you any legal right to trespass. They had no business doing that. They shouldn't have done it. And when they were called on it, they're like, hey, we want you to come to the office. Like, no, thanks for the invitation, but we're good. We're just gonna go now. So once again, they did something wrong. They trespassed, and they didn't want to be held accountable. See how that overlaps with the Obama inauguration's pigsty? They did something wrong, and they didn't want to be held accountable with it. They didn't want to clean up their own mess. And that's how all of that way of thinking plays out into the rest of our lives. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the future.